Alright, no intro today. We're diving straight into the chaos, because what I've got to say? Yeah, it can't wait. Now, before we even touch this madness, let me just say, the OVO town halls are fuming. They've never been this pressed, and the takes I'm about to drop? Oh, they're gonna sting. So yeah, hit that like, subscribe, do the thing, trust me, we're gonna need all the backup we can get for this one. So, story time. I woke up this morning and boom, my own little whacked out murals moment. I opened Twitter, or whatever we're calling it now, and what do I see? Some Drake stan spewing nonsense. And not just any stan, one of the so-called leaders of the biggest OVO fan hives out there. They clipped one of my videos, the one where I was talking about Kendrick Lamar's tour and how hip-hop media has been covering it. And guess what they did? Sped it up. Chopped it up. Twisted my words. Tried to throw dirt on Kendrick and on me. Now, I'm not even gonna waste time repeating their little insults or fake outrage. Who cares? The point is deeper than that. Because what I realized, and what I'm about to say, yeah, brace yourself, is that I'm sorry. Not sorry like that, though. Not in the way you think. I'm sorry for you. Because, honestly, watching the Drake fandom melt together over their Iceman is just sad. Like, imagine being so desperate you have to speed up my voice to feel relevant. You know the saying, if you can't kill the message, distort it. And that's exactly what they're doing. But here's where it gets embarrassing. It's been 2 years. Yep. 2 full years since the OVO army had anything to flex about. 2 years since they were at the top, pretending the most mid-music ever made was somehow Elmatic 2.0. Let's be real, your guy Drake hasn't dropped a true #1 moment since For All the Dogs. And oh boy, let's talk about that album. This wasn't just a flop. This was one of the most delusional, arrogant projects I've ever heard from someone who calls himself top tier. A high-level performer? Please. If you want to know when Drake's fall started, look no further. Because For All the Dogs wasn't just bad, it was a full-on cultural insult. A man at the top making something that is hollow? Is that disrespectful to hip-hop itself? Yeah, history won't forget that one. And OVO stans, before you start crying hate, maybe learn a little about power. You had it. You wasted it. Drake with the braids looking like a parody of himself, that was the signal. Rap wasn't his passion anymore, it was his punchline. Instead of making classics, he's chasing TikTok loops and meme moments. 7 seconds of virality over timeless music. And that's where the downfall really began. Because when you drop an album that bad, and you still try to come for everyone in the industry, karma doesn't wait long. The result? Kendrick snapped back with a record that shook the whole game. Future and Metro flipping sides and dropping We Don't Trust You. The ripple effect was insane, and all of it traced back to For All the Dogs. It's wild, really. The same album that was supposed to unite rap's heavyweights, Kendrick, J. Cole, Future, turned into the wedge that split everything apart. Drake thought they'd all fall in line. Instead, they drew their lines in the sand. And that, my friends, is where the OVO empire started to crack. So while Kendrick and Future completely steered clear of that album, Drake still got the little pat on the back he was desperate for, courtesy of J. Cole. Yeah, Cole hopped on first-person shooter, and together they played pretend. Acting like the big three were in harmony, when really, the whole point of that track was Drake and Cole crowning themselves as the top two. Subtle? Not even close. Now, maybe Cole didn't mean it to sound shady, but come on, the energy spoke for itself. With Drake in the mix, every bar felt heavier, more pointed, more we run this. And that's exactly how Cole ended up caught in the crossfire. Drake framed that whole song like it was some victory parade, placing Kendrick in the bronze spot and himself on top of the podium. Classic move, control the narrative, crown yourself king, hope the world buys it. Spoiler, it backfired. Because Kendrick Lamar isn't built to play third place. The man's too competitive, too sharp, too legendary for that. And when he finally clapped back? Oh, it showed. Drake said they were as big as the Super Bowl. Kendrick said, "Cool, I'll play the Super Bowl." The irony writes itself. That's the thing about arrogance, it blinds you. And Drake's ego here? It didn't just trip him up, it torched the whole blueprint. And let's not forget Future. People act like he wasn't even part of the fallout, but he absolutely was. Drake literally named a whole song after him, What Would Pluto Do? And still had the nerve to throw shade through it. So when Future came back swinging on We Don't Trust You, calling Drake a fake friend, a clingy fan, and straight up questioning why he'd move the way he did, that wasn't random. That was built up smoke, finally catching flame. Drake tried to flex. Instead, he alienated two of the biggest forces in the game. And the empire? Cracked even deeper. If you really want to know where Drake fumbled, where the friendship cracks and industry tension all started, the clues are right there on that song. The one where Drake straight up mocked his own friend and basically turned their fallout over a woman into a punchline. And the wildest part? He thought it was clever. Tried to spin it like some light-hearted, funny little nod to Future. But let's be honest, it landed horribly. Because when you try to justify being a bad friend by saying, "I only did what I thought Future would do," that's not self-awareness. That's delusion. This whole record is soaked in that arrogance. From the fake competition jabs at Kendrick to the passive-aggressive digs at Future, it's Drake trying to step on everyone, all while pretending it's just hip-hop fun. But For All the Dogs wasn't fun. It was unsettling. Seriously, it might be one of the most off-putting albums I've ever heard from someone that famous. Drake sounded rotten. Detached. Like he'd lost the plot completely. And look, if he had dropped heat, if he'd actually backed up the dices with greatness, that would have been a different story. You can talk your talk when you've earned it. But to put out something this mid, this hollow, and then act like you're the king of the rap game? That's pure clownery. The first-person shooter moment was textbook power tripping, forcing Cole to bend the knee, sending a message to Kendrick and Future that if they didn't play along, he'd try to erase them. That's not confidence. That's insecurity dressed up as dominance. And the sneak dices didn't stop there. They went deeper. Past FPS, past the big three talk. Drake started mocking lyrical rap, the very lane Kendrick built, with 8 AM in Charlotte. Then he moved into full-blown territory theft. Getting SZA, an artist tied to TD and some of Kendrick's biggest moments, on 2 tracks? That wasn't a coincidence. That was a strategy. Drake wanted to co-opt the sound, the voice, of the West Coast empire Kendrick helped build. And then? He doubled down. On 7969 Santa, he brought in Snoop Dogg, the West Coast's godfather, for a full vocal interlude hyping Drake up. That was his way of saying, "See? I don't need Dre. I've got Snoop." Because, of course, Dre would never touch that. Too loyal. Too respected. Drake reached for whatever piece of West Coast royalty he could get, trying to paint himself as the new face of it all. And then, in the FPS video, mocking Michael Jackson? Like he could ever be bigger than the real king of music? Yeah, that's when it went from ego to blasphemy. This album wasn't confident. It was arrogance masquerading as greatness, a man at his lowest, trying to convince the world he was at his peak. From hijacking hip-hop to chasing MJ's throne, For All the Dogs turned into a bizarre vanity project where Drake was fighting ghosts of legends he could never surpass. And that's the real tragedy of it, the music couldn't carry the message. The words didn't match the weight. It all felt like one big illusion, a trick played by a man who forgot what made him powerful in the first place. That's why For All the Dogs didn't just flop. It exposed Drake. And that's why, when we look back at For All the Dogs, it deserves to be remembered for exactly what it was, rock bottom. Not just for Drake, but for rap itself. That moment when everything hit its lowest point. Because after this album dropped, the dominoes fell fast. Future sparked a full-blown feud with Drake. Metro jumped in, fueled by his own issues and how Drake had treated him, cold, careless, and downright disrespectful. Then Kendrick finally stepped in, letting a decade-long tension explode into the open. It's almost poetic. Drake's arrogance was the match, and hip-hop lit the fire. When you really think about it, it's wild. This man got so complacent, so self-absorbed, that he started mocking the culture he was supposed to represent. But maybe that was the wake-up call hip-hop needed. Because if For All the Dogs never happened, if FPS and that whole Big 3 stunt never existed, we might never have gotten like that. We might never have seen Kendrick go on one of the greatest runs in modern rap history. In a twisted way, Drake's downfall was hip-hop's reset button. Because the culture saw this disaster, this bloated ego trip wrapped in lazy beats, and finally said, enough. We're done letting this slide. So, yeah. In a strange, backhanded way, thank you, OVO stans. Seriously. Your blind loyalty, your endless defense of mediocrity, your 2-hour town halls trying to spin my words and rewrite the truth, all of that helped push Drake into thinking he could drop this level of mid and still be untouchable. And that confidence? That's what crashed the empire. Without For All the Dogs, there'd be no like that, no we don't trust you, no renaissance moment where hip-hop stood tall again. So while the stans are still out here melting down, trying to make the right side look wrong, here's the reality, the Drake era is done. Finished. A relic. The charts, the hype, the illusion of dominance, all gone. Now, if you're trying to relive the glory days, go ahead. Hit play, remember your first listen, and realize that's as close as you'll ever get to that old magic again. Because Drake is on top? That's officially history. And honestly, seeing it come full circle like this, from arrogance to downfall, from mockery to rebirth, it's kind of poetic. So yeah, that's the story. That's how the OVO empire collapsed under its own ego. If you made it this far, drop a like, it really helps. Channel memberships are open, too, if you want to support what we're building here. And if you want to see what came next, Kendrick Lamar's latest show that has the whole internet losing its mind, you already know what to do. Hit the suggested video.